Hey, thanks for joining us again here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. When I was promoting this guest today, and you've already seen who we've got today, I said, always smiling, but a fierce competitor. And as we were doing our quick little pre-interview, we're already laughing at and with each other. So I think this is going to be a fun time. Before we get started, it is March 1st. I got to do the corporate commercial thing, right? So shipping for javelins is getting more and more expensive. UPS is just, they do what they got to do, right? So we are actually, for the month of March, for 2 or more javelins, we're going to do a flat rate for everybody in the continental 48 states. So $49 will get you 2 or more javelins, or some cool javelin starter packs we have for certain states like Florida, which will play a part of this story today, South Carolina, Arizona. We've got some nice javelin starter packs, but call your authorized preferred Gill Athletics dealer or give us a call here at 1-800-637-3090, and let's get you taken care of. Okay. The commercial's over. No more, I promise. Let's get to our guest today. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Miss Dana Boone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Nice to be here, Mike.
And right on cue, the smile, the laughter already starting. I love it. I love it. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is one, Dana, you and I have known each other for a while.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, it sounds like it's not a compliment, but it is to me. You're one of those people that I just don't know how we've met. Like, I've just always
I
known
have
Dana.
no idea.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have no idea either.
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, Dana, she's a friend, been around forever. Yeah, that's awesome. Super excited to learn more about your journey today, Dana. Tell us, so you're the head coach at the University of Central Florida. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been there, what's it like in Orlando, and just how warm is it? Because I know we're recording in February, but it's a little
I
warmer
don't
there.
know if you really want me to talk about how warm it is, but I have now, this is my third season as head coach at UCF. We don't really refer to it as Central Florida. It's UCF is our brand.
Okay.
Um, I was laughing the other day because I was like, I've been here, this is my third year, but I've only had one outdoor season since I've been here. So that's what's kind of crazy. I've had 2
Yeah.
indoors and 1 outdoor. So really looking forward to this outdoor season, but I digress. But anyway, yeah, we're down here in Orlando, and I feel bad kind of saying that. I mean, highs are going to be close to 90 today. So it's almost like the polar opposite of what everyone else is having. It's getting hotter here. But we are going to feel the effects this weekend. It'll only be 65. So that will be our cold front, and we will have to make do and survive. But
You poor
it's really
thing.
been nice.
Now, I didn't know. I knew it was warmer down in Orlando, but I didn't know it was going to be 90.
Well,
Literally.
it's close to 90. It's going to be upper 80s, like 86, 87 somewhere. They said this morning close to 90. So I don't know the exact temperature, but um, Monday was very hot. It was 80 plus
Ugh,
degrees. So
literally.
yesterday was supposed to be at hot, but it wasn't as hot as Monday. So we'll
What was it,
see.
like only 70s?
Yeah, actually.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see she has a long sleeve jacket. I won't call it a jacket, but come on, it feels like a little
Hey,
dramatic here, Dana.
this morning when I was walking my son to school, to the bus stop, it's a little breezy in the morning. Like on Saturday morning, it's going to be in the 40s and it's going to take a little while to end up to the 60s. So, this morning, my son always thinks I'm being a little dramatic because I always put a little jacket on because if the wind's blowing, I feel a little cool. So, yes, I tend to have jackets on and feel a little cooler even when it's warm. But by the time I walk out and go to practice, I won't have my jacket on
You
anymore.
get no sympathy from me at all. As I was
Hey, the
having,
office, if I was in the office is freezing. You must have a jacket.
yeah, I've been down there. That's true. That's a good point. As I was having coffee with my wife this morning, getting ready to come in for the interview, um, I was excited. I asked Alexa what the weather was going to be, and she said it was a high of 20. And I was like, "Oh, sweet! Like it's going to be 20. Like that's like I put I took my super winter gloves off and put my just regular gloves on. I was pumped. The last couple of days, it's been like high of 6 and
Yeah.
5 and stuff like that. So zero sympathy from at least my group, and I know a lot of the country. No sympathy from our
Yeah.
group.
I'm not really trying. That's why I say I feel kind of bad talking about the weather because there are people in dire straits and especially in the state of Texas, having lived
Yeah.
there, that could have been me easily. Since I spent 12 years there in different parts, but so I definitely feel for them there.
Yeah, it's one thing to joke about, if you're up north, and we like to joke about people down south. And remember, I'm from the South, so I'm really kind of making
Yeah.
fun of myself when I do this. But we make fun of, people who can't handle the cold, or a little bit of snow, or a little bit of ice. But honestly, this is no joke time. Like, serious bad things are happening down south, specifically in the state of Texas. So,
Yeah.
lots of thoughts and prayers for our friends and people that they need help down there. It
Sure.
is bad. It is bad. It's interesting. I didn't realize you mentioned about only one outdoor season in your 3 years at UCF. You were actually, you don't know this, you were the last school slash coach that I visited before the pandemic. I was in Orlando in March, and then right after that went to Albuquerque, and we all know what happened there, indoor nationals. But you were the last one I saw. You're
I
the
remember
last
that.
memory. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
came and sat on my couch. Yeah.
And it was hot then as well, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took the
Well,
long walk. I went the wrong way, and I took the long walk around the stadium to get to the hammer cage. I
oh,
was
oh
like,
yeah.
I know it's out here. And then when I found it and found the shortcut to get back to the track, I was like, are you serious? I just did like
Yeah. It's
a
like it's
mile.
not that far, but if you don't know where you're going, you take the long way. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, super excited to learn more how you got to Central Florida. So let's take a step back, getting our Wayback Machine here, and let's find out about track and coaching and education and how that all played, and mentors of yours that you've had along the way in your career. So take us back. When did you get into track, and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Virginia. I'm the daughter of a military father, but by the time, I came around, I was born in Leavenworth, Kansas, Fort Leavenworth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always have to say, not the prison. There's only two things in Leavenworth, a prison or army base, okay? And then, we bounced around a couple places, but we ended up in Virginia, and that's where I spent the majority of my life. But honestly, track came late in my life. I started playing soccer at age 3, and I love soccer, and that's what I did. I played select soccer, and the little travel league and whatever you do. All through elementary school and all of that. And going into high school, I thought I was going to go out for the high school soccer team. But, they do those little presidential fitness awards back in the day. I don't know if they still do them, but you find out you're the fastest girl in the school. And so then they say, hey, why don't you race the fastest boy? And then you guys race, and then you guys actually tie. And then it's like, and this was like in 7th grade, I think. And then they were just kind of like, hey, why don't you come out for the 7th, 8th grade track meet? And I'm just like, I'm still gonna play soccer. I don't know about this track thing. Mind you, along the way, my mom's put me in I've tried every sport possible. Like, I did
Mm,
soccer, but I tried gymnastics. I was on the swim team, tennis team,
awesome.
everything. She just believed in trying everything
Yeah.
to figure out what you're good at. And then, so I went out, and I remember the first time in 7th grade, I jumped like 15 something in the long jump. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So then the next year they asked me to come back out for the 8th grade track meet. And then I went back out and I jumped like 16.9. And they were like, I think you're gonna be okay in this track thing. And so I was like gonna try to do track and soccer, but they're at the same time. But I went out for track practice, and I remember after the warm up and one day of practice, I was like, man, I don't know about this track thing. This is this is a lot of running, and but somehow I ended up staying with track and dropping soccer, and that was the beginning of my track journey. So I really consider myself only starting track in 9th grade.
Mm.
And we had a pretty good team. And, my first year was a little rough in 9th grade, but by my sophomore year, we won state and defeated, at the time it was called JHW, which was Jefferson Huguenot With, which was a huge team, had Don Sowell on it and everything like that. So
Oh, wow.
it was pretty monstrous for us to win state back in 1985. I'm telling you how old I am.
I did
Um,
not ask that question. That's
yeah.
never a question I asked, Dana.
But they had never been beaten before. They were a tough team in the state of Virginia to beat. But I actually won a state title in the long jump, I think, that year, and as a sophomore. And I guess I kind of took up a love for track from there.
It's interesting you said that, your kind of first reaction to track was like, this is a lot of running.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I don't know a lot about soccer, but
Yeah,
I've
I just
seen a
didn't
few.
think
There's
it
a
was.
lot of running in soccer as well. Is it just the
Yeah,
distraction of the ball and the
I
goal?
think so. And I played left wing. So, I looked at it like, I'd sprint down the field, kind of get the ball, kind of boot it across the field or something like that. And, I don't know, the back and forth. And then, you get out and get a little break. But in track, it just seemed like by the time you do the warm up, all the drills, then you've got the interval work, it just seemed like way more than me just running up, back and down the field. But yeah, when I look at it now, I'm like, yeah, soccer has a lot of running in it too. But as a eighth grader, ninth grader, I was kind of like, oh man,
I think there's a lesson there. You get, I'm gonna say, distracted in soccer of the ball and the goal. Like you're not running to run, you're running to do something.
Yeah,
And then if you think about track, what is some of where the magical times and breakouts happen? A lot of times is in relays, right?
yeah,
And I think there's that distraction of relays of like, okay, not only do I have a baton, but
yeah,
I have a mission. Like I have to get the baton to my teammate, or I have to get the
right,
baton. It's different than just the interval workouts and
yeah.
speed workouts and things like that. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then as we progressed on and we became a better team, the coaches started saying, "Hey, in the fall, you have to be doing something."
More running.
And- yeah, and they said, "Well, you got a choice of cross country or, you find another sport." So I picked up field hockey because I asked my health teacher. I was like, "There's no way I'm running cross country. That's too much running." So I learned how to play field hockey and became a starting left wing on the field hockey team my junior year in high school. So I actually got a couple field hockey offers, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Wow. Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to hear I was like, wait a minute, this cross country doesn't seem like it's going to play in here. Field
No,
hockey, that seems it. Yeah.
no, I was just like, my health teacher was the field hockey coach. I was like, hey, can I come out and try out for the field hockey team? Because I'm not running cross country. It's not gonna happen.
Hide
Because
me from the cross country coach, please.
yeah, we used to be the spring group, when we had the warm up and there would be those long warm ups, I will admit we used to be the ones that would run around the building and then, kind of take a duck in the building for a little while and then come back out because, the mileage for me was not agreeable.
I think the statute of limitations is over. So if coach is potentially hearing this, you can't, no punishment. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Sorry, Coach Digby, Coach DeVendorf. I cheated on some of my warm up runs there in high
Now,
school. Yeah.
so that leads me to ask, do you have any sympathy, empathy for any athletes that do that to you now?
Well, I don't really do that to them. Like their
Sure.
warm up is literally a couple laps with some dynamic stuff. I don't make them run
All
the
right.
miles that I had to run. And even looking back in my first couple years of college, I mean, that first 2 weeks was crazy when I think about it as a jumper, the amount of running that I did. We did, I was running 2.5 miles 3 times a week and 4.5 miles the other 2 days a week for the first 2 weeks. That was our conditioning, so I don't really have much sympathy because I did way worse. So no.
That's the way to look at it. I like that. I like that. I love your variety of sports background. You
Yeah.
mentioned mom, tennis and soccer and field hockey,
Swimming too. I was like,
swimming. If
yeah,
track were out of it, if we didn't have track anymore, what do you think would have been your sport?
I probably would have just stuck with soccer.
Mhm.
Although the swim coach thought I had a mean backstroke and he really thought I could be good, but I was like, once again, the warm up dang near killed me. I was like, wait, this is just the warm up. And then we have the workout. And then it was 2 days. They were coming back.
Mm,
I have short bursts of energy. I don't have that long endurance. Like
mm.
I got, I'm good for 30, 40 meters. And, the 100 was a stretch for me, but I did whatever my coach asked. The 4x4, it wasn't pretty, but you just do whatever. But in reality, that wasn't my area of specialty. I
I
was a speed power, short speed power person.
When I was coaching at Ball State, I was dating one of our swim coaches. That was the first time I'd been in a program that had swimming and diving. So it was the first time I went to a swim meet. And
Mhm.
I've grew up and my whole life has been track. And we can complain about the length of track meets and all that stuff. A swim meet or match, whatever we call it. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, could be all day.
hot, stuffy, it's humid as all get out, at least where we were, and
Mhm.
forever. And, the 100-meter dash, if you will, for swimming still takes like minutes. I mean, oh my Lord. Yeah. I can't do the swimming and diving thing. I can do the highlights from the Olympics, and that's about it. I'm kind of like how we complain about people for track. That's how I am
Yeah.
for swimming.
Yeah, I had a whole new respect for swimming after that. Not to mention it was just heck on a black woman's hair, but I was just like that was a lot of work. And ever since then, when people talk about swimming, I'm like, that's got to be one of the tougher sports.
Mm.
I mean, that's a lot of swim. That's a lot of
Mm,
work.
mhm, mhm. You mentioned winning a state title in the long jump your sophomore year. What, besides natural talent, because you mentioned jumping 15 and 16 as a seventh and eighth grader, what drew you to the jumps over hurdles or sprinting or any of the other events?
Well, let me take that back. I long jumped, but they also threw me in the hurdles too, and I think
Nice.
ran decent enough in the hurdles that they kept me in the hurdles. And I was one of those people that it was just like I did a lot of events. At one point in time, honestly, my mom had to step in because I think, I was up to like 7 events because I was the district champion in the high jump. It wasn't very high, but 5'1"
Wow.
as a ninth grader because I just was playing around in practice. Oh, I bet you I can high jump. I tried it and they were like, I think she can. So you do that. And then, I did long jump, I did 100 hurdles, I did the 100
Okay.
dash, the 200, the 300 hurdles, and I was on all the relays. I was just kind of one of those people that would just do whatever. And I laugh because I talk about myself, but I remember I went to high school with Alan Johnson, and Alan Johnson came out. And I'll never forget, he was in this little LA Rams jersey. He's probably gonna be mad at me for telling this story, but the kid could do everything. I mean, he could high jump, he could long jump, he could triple jump and hurdle, and he was just like a stud. You just knew he was going to be something special. But I obviously didn't have his talent, but we were kind of in the same, like, those people that just tried everything. And then my junior year, I tried triple jump, and we went to this is how old I am. We went to the Pathmark Indoor Nationals. I don't know if you remember, they used to have it's probably now the equivalent of New Balance, but Pathmark was a grocery store chain
Mm-hmm.
and they were the sponsors of the national champions. I still have my ring and everything, but it used to be the Pathmark Nationals indoors. I can't even remember where it was, if it was in New York or Princeton somewhere. I can't remember the exact location, but and I went up there and I was going really for the long jump. And I think I jumped 1911 indoors at that meet. But I tried the triple jump for the first time, and I laughed, but I jumped 32 feet in the triple jump, never having done it, right? And then we go to the next meet, and I jumped 38 feet in the triple jump. And then, my senior year, I started figuring the triple jump out, and that maybe that was my senior year. I don't remember, but I remember I went to districts. I jumped 40'10", and then I went to regionals. I jumped 41'10", and then I went to state and I jumped 42'9", and I think it just got broken by Tatiana Marsh about 2 or 3 years ago. Whatever year she is in at Georgia. She broke my record her
Wow.
senior year, but it lasted for like 30 something years. So I just wish I had more time with the triple jump. Because even in college, I went to the trials in '92 and it still wasn't an official event in the Olympics. So
Yeah, that still boggles me. We recently had Karen Dennis on the show, and talking about the opportunities available to women, in a lot of cases, also opportunities that I shouldn't say were not available to women, but also to men and women of minority status as well. She gave us the example when she was growing up for basketball, they only let them play half court. That blew my mind. And, it made me think about on the track side, you mentioned triple jump not being a part of the Olympics. It wasn't that long ago. We just got pole vaulting, steeplechase, and even hammer for women, which, I mean, it boggles my mind.
well, as a kid, like I said, I felt like triple jump really could have been my thing. And then when I went to college, because it wasn't really official, it was a secondary event, but I think that was my better event. But I remember as a junior going to the junior nationals in Towson, Maryland in 1986. And that was the first time they had a world junior team. And I won the triple jump, and I jumped like 40'4", something like that. Because I had a bad day in the long jump and I didn't make the team. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go. And, so I go and I win the triple jump. And I'm so excited, but they don't take me because the triple jump's not an official event. So I missed out on being part of that that first world junior team. And that was a star-studded event. There was a lot of people on that team that went on to be Olympians and stuff. And I just hate that I missed out on that opportunity. And then obviously my senior year, I was a little hurt. So I didn't get to make the team again, but it is what it is.
I'm so impressed. I'm glad that you grew up in Virginia as far as like high school and such. Because, Virginia is one of those states where, it's not a populous state like a Florida and a Texas and California, but man, are there some athletes. I didn't know Alan. First of all, I didn't know Alan Johnson came from Virginia. Second of all, did not know you were high school teammates with him. That's awesome. I love that. None of my teammates are of Alan Johnson. We're all bums in the world now for my high school teammates. Alan is actually the person who that's how I fell in love with the hurdles. Like Alan was my first idol of oh yeah, that guy's a stud. I'm going to watch his whole career. That's so cool. I love that. So how did, obviously you're talking about jumping 40-foot plus in the triple jump, which is, even today is a big standard to make. You jump 40. You mentioned 19 high in the long jump. Where was college? And spoiler alert, you end up going to University of Virginia. Was it always going to go to University of Virginia, or did you look elsewhere?
No, I mean, obviously I got recruited. At first I thought I was going to go as far away from home as possible. At first I wanted to go to Stanford. I was like, I'm going West Coast completely. Then I realized that's probably not going to happen, in terms of I'll be honest, I just wasn't for filling out the applications early and everything like that. I'm just going to be honest. I really wasn't. I was like, by October, I was like, man, I don't think so. So that, but I got recruited by University of Texas, Illinois, Florida State. I mean, I talked to a lot of great coaches, and then, honestly, I really kind of wanted to go to LSU, and then, but I don't know, something happened and we didn't get that home visit done. And so I don't know, you look back and it's just like, well, it is what it is. But, and then my senior year, I got hurt, and University of Houston, Tom Tellez. And I remember I was excited. I was going to get to meet Carl Lewis on my visit, because I went to my visit at University of Houston, and Leroy Burrell, and also co-hosted with Yolanda Jones
That's funny.
as my host. So Leroy and I have known each other a long time, anyway, but so and that was enticing because Tom Tellez said, hey, you come here, I can make you an Olympian. That's like, but it was a little too far away from home. I realized after going on these visits that I was more of a homebody than I wanted to realize. And honestly, I got hurt, and some people, I tore my hamstring. I mean, I didn't just pull it. I tore my hamstring my senior year. So, and that was indoors. And so when I jumped at 42.9, that was me coming off of I got hurt at a Virginia Tech meet indoors, and then I was out for 3 months, and that was me making a comeback. And, but I appreciate those schools that stuck with me and still offered, regardless of that situation. But at the end of the day, I went on my visit to Virginia, and it felt like home. It was far enough away from home. And it just felt like home. So I ended up canceling my visit to Illinois and Texas. But sometimes I think back, because I remember Coach Winkler saying to me, he's like, if you come to Illinois, I can make you a really good hurdler. But at the time, I didn't want to hear about the hurdles, because I did hurdle. I mean, I wasn't the greatest, but I probably ran like 14.1 or something in the hurdles. But like I said, I just had a wide variety of events that I did. So some people were looking at me as a multi, because like I said, I could high jump, long jump, sprint and I could hurdle. I mean, you just have to teach me how to throw and pray to God I could survive an 800. But so I don't know, Virginia just felt like home, but you know, sometimes I wonder, wonder what I would have done if I focused on the hurdles, you know. But when I got to Virginia, you know, it was just a situation where it was kind of like, well, choose what you want to do. You know, what do you want? I said, well, I'm going with the jumps, you know, and kind of wish I'd stuck with the hurdles as well. But, you know, I was having some injuries, but, you know, I ended up sticking with the jumps and, you know, was relatively successful. So
I'm surprised you mentioned multis. I was going to go that route. Like no one kind of moved you to that side, at least for training purposes, you know?
well, there was that discussion, but it was kind of like, you know, if you ask me, then I was definitely not going to choose the multi, but I wonder, you know, now, so maybe I would have been pretty good. I don't know. But you know, hindsight is 2020. But yeah, like I said, if I looked at myself, if I was recruiting myself, I was like, man, she's got a wide variety of marks across the board. I probably would have looked at, you know, a possible multi, you know, but I don't know.
What that's always a good game to play. Is like, hey, if you were recruiting yourself, what would you have said? Yeah,
But I
I
mean,
like
for
that.
me, it's like if you see somebody that's jumped 1911 indoors, 19.8 outdoors, 42 feet in the triple jump, 14.1 in the hurdles, and then I was only 12 flat in 100, you know, and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I probably would have made me a jump or two, but you know, you have those past possibilities.
One of the best athletes I ever coached was from Virginia. She was a long jumper, triple jumper. I had her at Ball State, and she was, you know, 17 and 37 or 36 out of high school. I had her for her last 2 years. Her previous coach did an excellent job, got her up to about 20 feet and 40 and change. And this is a little bit like when you get older, your marks get better. So for
Yeah,
me, Patricia Soman, her marks keep getting better, but I
yeah,
think I think we finished out her senior year. She jumped something like 22 feet and 44 feet. And it's probably like 43 change and 20, but I mean, she was legit like
yeah,
All-American and everything.
yeah,
And super athletic, you know, split 52 point on the 4x4 and what have you. And never, like, she could have done a multi, like she would have been
yeah,
really, really good. Obviously. I mean, she was super fast and
yeah.
she was tall. So you know, she'd have been okay in the throws. But I think the same thing, she would have walked the 800. That would have just been, she was like, there would have never been a discussion about that. It'd be like, what is
It would have been ugly.
it's the heptathlon. What is the 6 event multi called? Because that's what she
Yeah,
would have got into.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know? What were you studying while you're at University of Virginia? And what was your thought as far as like a career, like what was going to happen
You
after you
know,
graduated?
and here's the God honest truth. I got into Virginia. I started off as a psychology major. I thought I always wanted to be, you know, I laugh because I always say I wanted to be a psychiatrist or psychologist, something to help people. Um, and I'm not gonna lie that my sophomore year, that getting into that major, one of those classes took me out, and I was like, you know, I may need to rethink my life here. So um, I ended up being a communication studies major, not really knowing what I was going to do with that. And let's be honest, that's probably the nice degree that a lot of athletes got at Virginia. But one thing my dad had always told me, he was like, you know, Dana, it's they want to see that you can complete a task. You know, you get your college degree and you're going to be trained that you're smart enough. They know once you've graduated, you're smart enough to learn anything. They'll train you in whatever job you decide to be, unless you just want to be a doctor or architect or something very specific. You just need that college degree, and you're going to sell yourself and find your way. And so I took that into consideration as I was just like, okay, my degree from the University of Virginia is going to carry some weight, and it's important that I graduate. And I did graduate in 4 years. I just went to one summer school, so I definitely took that opportunity to do the best that I could with that. But I really honestly did not have a single clue as to what I wanted to do once I switched my major.
Huh.
You know, for a minute I thought about sports broadcasting, but at that time I was too shy and I was like, there's no way I could. I know people find it hard for me to believe it. Yeah, I know.
Okay, hold on. First of all, I want to give props to Dad. I love his attitude about college and finishing, and you know, and really about your own self self-worth, meaning like you'll sell yourself. They want to see that you completed a task. Love dad's
Yeah.
thought process there. Second of all, wait a minute, you were shy?
Well, look,
Hold
if I
on.
don't really know you, I am shy. Like if I know you, I'm definitely not shy. I'm more comfortable in small groups and everything. So I'm not, I have my little circle of people and I'm very outgoing. But if you put me, no, that's why, have you noticed I don't like to do a lot of these things. I've gotten better, but I'd rather have a conversation with some friends than to be in front of a million people talking and doing all that. So
Well, maybe I should take this as a huge compliment because I only know you as the outgoing, smiling, I mean, that's like,
well,
that's
you
how I
grow and
know
evolve.
you.
Like I
Yeah.
said, that was in college. You grow and evolve,
Hmm.
and but I honestly did not know what I was going to do. And I can remember sitting on the track with my college coach at the time. It was Gary Kinder, and I remember we were out training for the USA's or something like that. It was just myself and him, and I told him, I said, man, I don't know how you're a coach. There's no way that I would ever put up with all these different attitudes. Like people come to practice and they just in a bad mood and they take it all out on you. And I was like, nah, there's no way I could be a coach. Now, fast forward.
Right.
But see, I didn't go when I moved to Middle Tennessee. I did not go to be a coach. I went with, this is what I told my parents. I said, I have an Olympic dream. I said, I jumped 21.9, I think, as a senior or whatever in college. And I was just like, I feel like if I can jump 21.10, that's third place at the Olympic trials. And I have a shot to make the Olympic team. I said, I just need one opportunity. And I said, after I try that, I promise I'll get a job and start my life. That's what I said. So I said, so if you could just support me in my dream for a year, then I'll go start my life. And
So,
so that's what they did.
so you go to Middle Tennessee State to do grad work, and I assume maybe
Well,
a grad assistant
I didn't
position?
go there to go to school. I didn't go there for anything other than to train. I went there because I met Charlie Simpkins at the New York meet in Randall's Island. And he said, hey, you should come down to Jump City and train with us. And
Jump
I
City.
was like, well, I need somebody to train. I need a training group to train with. And so I packed up moving to Middle Tennessee for no other purpose other than for me to chase my Olympic dream. And so when I went
Wow.
down there, it was Charlie Simpkins, Gordon Lane, William Beasley, Letitia Beverly, myself, and I see her face right now, is Latasha Rogers. And so it was like 3 long jumpers and 3 male triple jumpers. And so that's why I moved to Middle Tennessee. And I met Coach Hayes and we just hit it off. And he kind of just took me under his wing.
Awesome.
And he told me, you're going to grad school. And I said, I don't want to go to school anymore. I was like, no, sir, I've had enough school. Like Virginia was hard enough. No, thank you. And he was like, you're going to want this graduate degree. And you can help me out with the team. And I was kind of like, but I don't want to. He's like, trust me, this is what you need to do. So as you can see, I was like, I'm glad there were people in my life that saw
Right.
beyond what I could see. And so, yeah, so he basically was like, okay, take your GRE, apply for grad school, and you're going to be my graduate assistant,
What a
and
what a great definition of coach.
yeah.
Seeing something that you don't see. That's what coaches do when they pour
Yeah.
into their athletes. And Dean Hayes being one of the just all time awesomest people and coaches that we have. I bet you you were not the only one that he made do something that they didn't want to do. It's like, hey, yeah, you're
Uh,
going to grad school. You're going to do the triple jump. You're going to go do this.
Well, from that day, we have a running joke. His daughters are my sisters. He's daddy. And when Mel Rosen was around, he was granddaddy. So it was just like once he takes you under your wing, you're part of his family,
Yeah.
and you just become. I tell you this: he has not missed since I've known him. He has not missed calling me on my birthday every year. He doesn't miss a beat. We didn't actually get to talk this year, but usually we catch up. But he doesn't miss a beat. But
He's amazing. Love him.
yeah, I'm thankful because honestly, I didn't think it was something that I wanted to do, didn't think it was something I could do. And then the irony of me
The
going to
the
train with
grad work you're talking about?
coaching.
Coaching. Okay. Yeah.
Because remember, I said I didn't want to be a coach. I said
Right.
I've been putting up with all of these attitudes and all of these people coming out here complaining all the time. So, and so the funny thing is, my high school coach, Pete Bendorf, he taught me how to triple jump from Coach Hayes's book. So when I went down there and moved to train with him, he was like, "That's the guy that I taught, that's where I got your drills from and stuff."
Awesome.
So it's kind of funny. It all goes full circle.
Yeah, that's really fun. We didn't have YouTube and Zoom calls and social media.
You read books.
You had to read a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to find that book, by the way. That
You had to
wasn't the
find the
easiest
book.
thing in the world. That's awesome. So as you're going through grad school and you're training and jumping for the Olympic trials, did coaching start becoming the profession at that point, or was it still like, nah, this is just an ends to the means, I'm here to train for the
Yeah,
trials?
this was just the ends to the means. I was getting school paid for. I was able, I was working two jobs, going to grad school and training. So literally, like, I would work writing parking tickets from I had, yes, from like 6 to 9, I had one little thing where I had to sit in the car and guard this parking lot, make sure nobody was getting in there. Then after that, I would go and I had to walk the campus and write parking tickets, across
You
the.
were one of them.
I was one of them, but I was a
Oh
reasonable one of
my.
them. I was kind of one of those like, all right, look, you got 5 minutes, get in. If you're just running in, you got 5 minutes. You don't come back out in 5 minutes. Tickets on your car. But I would reason with you. You understand? I would reason with you. I didn't give everybody just a ticket for no reason. But
There are so many unpaid college specifically tickets right now that
yeah,
no reasonability was ever given for those.
yeah, I agree. So I didn't want to be one of those people. I was like, hey, I need to work this job. But so I did that in the morning, and then I would go to practice from like 3 to 5, and then I had grad school from 6 to 9 or whatever, and then I go to the library from like 9 to 11, and then I go to bed and do it all over again. And then on the weekends, I would work at Opryland in Nashville.
Wow. What'd you do? More parking tickets?
No, I worked in the souvenir shop. one of the souvenir shops at Opryland. Then I dropped both of those, and I ended up working at the grocery store. But so a lot of times it's hard for me to understand, because I worked hard for whatever dream I was chasing, and I sometimes I see all these kids get stuff pretty easily, and then when they complain like, we don't get to do it, I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea what hard work really actually is. But anyway, yeah, so that was my life. And so what happened for me was I was coaching and I was helping out, but yeah, I was training. I mean, like I said, Charlie Simpkins was a great person to train with. He was, we were paying him money, and he was making our meals every day. And we had like, I knew we were going to have good lunch and dinner. He was cooking every day.
Wow.
And we go over there and eat. And so we were doing our little training. So I was trying to zone in on that. So it was just, a means to the end for me. But then, and back then they had women's development. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but if you were like top 5 in the country and for women's development, they would fly you different places, around the country to compete. And so that's how I was getting into meets and stuff. Wow. And going to Modesto relays or going to Mount Sac or something like that through women's development. And so I was jumping well, and going into the trials, I felt like I had a legitimate shot of making the team. So I went to the trials, and it was in New Orleans in '92. It's probably one of the hottest times ever experienced. Now, mind you, I was there 2 weeks because we did the exhibition triple jump the week before. So then I had to stay another week because the long jump was,
triple jump.
Yeah. So I was 2 weeks in New Orleans in that heat. But the day of the long jump, I'll never forget this. It was already hot. It was already 90+ degrees. Then we had a thunderstorm, and it just poured down rain as we were warming up for the jumps. And then it stopped. and the sun came out and you could just see the heat coming off the track. Cause now it's like 100 degrees with 100% humidity. And it's just like this
Muggy.
hot box. But that was the most miserable I've ever been.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and I remember I had gotten my hair done and it was a mess now because I got rained on. I was like, oh, well, you just throw that out the window. But I went out there and I remember on my first jump, that was the farthest I never open up big, and I'm usually never a person that fouls. I'm usually behind the board or on the board. And I think I was behind the board, or I don't know if I hit the board, but I opened up like jump like 20'9". So I was like, oh man, I'm on today. Like we're gonna jump big. And boy, my second jump, I know coach said, hey, just back it up a little bit, whatever. And I think I must have just pushed it a little bit too hard. I should have just maintained my rhythm. But I went down there, my foot hit that board. And I don't know if you remember when they used to do plasticine.
Mm-hmm.
And my foot hit and my spikes didn't stick in. And like that foot slid across the plasticine and my ankle rotated around, almost all the way around. And I went, and I landed face first in the sand. So
No.
I got hurt and they carted me off. And I felt like I was the agony of defeat on that, the CBS thrill of victory. And then that was the agony of defeat. But I remember being in the airport and everybody's like, oh, were you that girl that got hurt in the lawn? I was like, yes, that was me. But that's when my life changed, because those 2 years of trying to come back from injury, that's when coaching became a reality. Because obviously, what was I doing with my time while I was trying to make a comeback? I was still working with the team. And so, out of that misery came my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know about the injury. Like you talked about, they carted you off. So like ligaments, broken bone. What?
You know what? When I went to the doctor, he said, I almost wish you had broken your bones because it would heal faster. I tore every ligament in my foot possible.
Wow.
And so it was and then they were never the same. He was like, ligaments take forever to heal. And so he was just like, you would have been better off breaking your foot, but it just was a long, painful process. And then it was to the point where I was back. And I don't remember, I was at one of those indoor nationals. I can't remember where it was. And I knew that I was only going to get one jump off pain-free, because once you take off and hit it, now it's going to be throbbing and it's going to be painful after that. Like you can still jump, but your pain tolerance, you just have to suck it up and go. Right. But I only had one chance to jump, and I took a couple jumps, and I just remember going over to Coach Hayes and I said, I think this is it. I'm just going to hang it up. And I remember him just giving me a hug and he said, yeah, it's probably time. Because, it was 2 years of trying to make it work, and it just didn't, it did not happen.
I'm always amazed. I knew your phone was going to ring. You're too important and busy.
I put it on silent. I don't know why. I tried to silence everything.
I'm always amazed at when high-level athletes, the decision point of when it's time to the quote unquote hang them up, how that decision comes. Because, we've seen in some other sports, people compete way past their prime. Like, yeah, man, you should have, retired 5 years ago. You didn't need these last 5 years and taken away your legacy. But that decision point has to be hard, because it's up to that point, it's quote unquote all you've known is competing and practicing and preparing, to have that decision at one point of like, this is the last jump, that jump I just took, that was the last jump I will ever have taken in a competitive scenario.
Yeah, that definitely was a tough, that was a tough pill to swallow, because, you were that close to an Olympic dream. And it really was a reality. Like I'm such a realist. I'm not one of those people like, if I was, jumping 20 feet low or whatever, I would have been like, but I was in the mix. And so I was like, I had a legitimate shot. So I just hate that it fell short. But, I always tell people the irony of it all was I missed the Olympic games and all of that. But in 96, I went to the Olympic Games just in a different capacity. And so I by working at Middle Tennessee, I also Dr. Whitehill got me into drug testing. And so I used to be that person that would show up at people's house and say, hey, surprise, we're here for drug testing. I mean, I went to Lawrence Johnson's house one time with in Knoxville with Dr. Whitehill, and he was having a band session. It was 11 o'clock at night. I have no idea why we were going there at 11 o'clock. It was like late, 10 or 11 o'clock, and they were about to have a jam session. So we had to just sit there, while he was rocking out until he had to go. We collected the sample and then we left,
Now,
but
let's look at this history. Parking ticket officer, I'll call you for like
yeah.
a term, attendant, whatever, drug tester. I mean, these are some of the, we I hate to say we look down on these positions, but we
Hey,
I'm so
it
glad.
is what it is.
I'm so glad you made up for it by being the best profession you can be, a track coach. So that's you kind of overcompensated and done that.
But for me, it was fun, and I didn't look at it in no way. And so, like I said, I got selected to be a drug escort at the '96 Olympics. So I was there on the track, and I got to see Michael Johnson set those records in person. I got to escort the Olympic gold medalist for the women's triple jump. And I always tell the story because it's funny because people don't believe me, but so, they have a translator or whatever. And so she won. And I said, well, hey, we got 30 minutes to report to the thing, after you. So I had to follow them around. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at this Olympic gold medalist, and the first thing she wants to do is her and her coach and her doctor, they go smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, you just win an Olympic medal, and the first thing she wants to do is smoke a cigarette. So she smoked one, and then they let her have two. She wanted a third one. They had to cut her off at 3.
Holy cow.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, we need to go get drug tested now. Like, come on, let's go. But yeah, I got to escort Gwen Torrance as well. And after she won it, so I was laughing because I think my parents or my family saw me on TV because, she's being interviewed and I have to stand right next to her, make sure, so I was on TV a lot. People were hitting me up like, so I kind of got my little Olympic on the, a different way, but I got to be a part of the Olympics in different ways. So I will treasure that memory forever. It wasn't the way I wanted it, but it is what it is.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great attitude to have. I mean, we talk about this a lot. There's decision points in your life, and you can go one way or the other. That means your attitude as well, right? So after the disappointment with the injury and the comeback, you could have taken a very poor attitude about it. Woe was me, and track sucks and all this kind of stuff, and I'm gonna go
probably did for a little while
do something else. But instead, I love this attitude of like, I was gaming for the '96 Olympics as an athlete. Fate or whatever you believe and think in didn't happen that way, but I was still able to be involved and contribute to the Olympics. That's a great attitude. That's a great lesson there, as we go through a lot of things, and disappointment with obviously missing track seasons with COVID, and athletes that get injured that we didn't plan on. Obviously, that's a great attitude of like, contribute in some form or fashion. It may not be how you originally thought, but contribute. Wow. So where did you go after Middle Tennessee State? And now is the coaching bug there? You're a coach now?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, and the thing about it was I had to coach the men too. And that was interesting because, I was a 22, probably, somewhere between 21, 23-year-old female trying to coach men for the first time in her life. And so, I had to have some, we butted heads, and there definitely was some issues, but Coach Hayes was very supportive, and he always told me that you're a coach. You're not a men's coach, you're not a women's coach, you're a coach. So you coach whoever, so that was the attitude. And he was supportive of me being a men's coach. And it took a little while, but then after a while, those guys became my protectors, like, hey, nobody messes with my coach, but you had to have, butt heads a little bit and kind of, stake your claim a little bit, and you had to earn their respect. And so after that, I enjoy coaching both men and women. And so from there, I got a phone call from my former college coach, Coach Kraft. He was at the University of South Carolina as the head coach there. And he asked me to come and be his restricted earnings coach. And I think You remember restricted earnings coaches?
Yeah.
The ones that
Yeah.
couldn't make any money or get any benefits? Yeah,
Yeah. What a
those positions.
terrible fallacy in NCAA world for profession. I mean, what a just
Yeah.
terrible, terrible. Yeah.
Well,
You said Coach Kraft, or you're talking about Greg Kraft, or
Greg Kraft, yeah. He
yeah,
was my
that's awesome.
college coach for 2 years until he left to go to University of South Carolina. So
Wow.
then if years later, when I was at Middle Tennessee, he called me up and asked me to be,
Okay.
come to South Carolina. He had called me once before and I told him no the first time. So then he called me a second time and I was like, well, you know what? Now he's calling a second time. Maybe I better go,
It may not be a third.
Yeah. So I left Middle Tennessee after 2 years and I went to South Carolina and I had intentions of staying at South Carolina. It just was somehow my degree plan didn't transfer over like we thought it was going to be. I only had 2 classes left. And um, so I went to South Carolina, but I was only there a year because I was like, if I stay longer, I'm never going to finish my degree and I can't not finish something that I started in terms of something like that. So, but I went to South Carolina and I tell you, Coach Kraft is a guy that he teaches you the hard way, but you appreciate it. I've told the story before about how, I didn't have any experience really, with the administrative side of coaching. Coach Hayes told me at the time, he said, you need to have your degree because I don't even know what it was, but back then for a minority woman female, you needed your graduate degree. And that was the only way you were going to be put in the rotation of getting jobs. That was the initiative. That's what they were pushing. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to finish my degree as well. But I went to South Carolina and, he comes in and he drops the budget on my desk and says, figure it out. And I'm like, huh? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like the whole budget, but it was the travel portion. So I was supposed to figure out how much everything was going to cost. And so I did all of that.
Wow.
Without asking, because, he just struck me as the type of person, like, don't ask me any questions, just figure
it done. Right.
And in some ways, I now respect that so much more. At the time, I was like, I can't believe he just did, but so anyway, and then I figured it out and I took it back to him. And then he looked it over, he came back, he dropped it on my desk and said, there's a mistake. Didn't tell me what the mistake was. He just said, there's a mistake. I said, well, you know what? So I had to go through,
Coach.
And I figured it out that I didn't, like one of the meets, I didn't put the hotel days for 2 days, so I didn't have enough money in there. So whatever. But, at the time I was like, I can't believe he's doing it. But, looking back, I'm like, he was just teaching me how to be self-sufficient, problem solve and figure out, that, I did have the smarts to figure out, know what to do, someone doesn't always have to tell you what to do. So
yeah, there's a lot of trust in that, right? Like, I mean, on one hand, it seems
I'm sure he was going to always
but
go
it's
back
also
and
trust on it though. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was just trying to help me out in terms of preparing me. Because there's no way he was going to just let me be responsible for the budget. I think he was just trying to see,
yeah,
like,
maybe how you reacted to it. Maybe you pushed back or something. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And, at the same time, I came there not really knowing what to expect. Obviously, I was his assistant, but I laugh because, and he'll probably laugh at this too, but he gave me 3 athletes that, to be honest, he probably just didn't want to coach. And there was, a young lady that, hadn't jumped well in a while. And then there was one, walk-on guy. And then, there was another girl that was a transfer that was just like a little walk-on or whatever. And so he gave me those 3. I worked with him for everything else, but I had these 3 specifically that I did the technical work for and everything like that. And, I appreciate the opportunity because it I think he knew that like I'm really competitive. And so I really feel like he didn't think I could do anything with these kids. So I think it just kind of gave me a little motivation. And so it was funny because the long jumper ended up getting 8th place and getting a point. And my high jumper ended up finishing either 4th or 5th. And he was like, I can't believe you got them to score in the SEC. Because remember, this South Carolina was in the SEC. And that year we finished fourth, which was the highest at the time that South Carolina had finished.
Wow.
But we had contributed our little points. And he was like, he actually said that to me. He's like, I can't believe you got those guys to score. And I was just like, for me, it was like motivation. Like you said, I can't do it. So I'm gonna figure out how.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how. So, almost up to this point, your self-worth was wrapped into how far you jumped. Like that was how you felt proud about what you were doing and how you're doing it. Now you get a positive feedback for something you've poured into other people and how they performed. How did that make you feel in relationship to the previous positives, your own actions?
Well, I mean, it's just like a new outlet, and and then I had to find my way recruiting wise. And I don't know, maybe Coach Shaver remembers this or not, but he was at Auburn at the time. But I remember him saying, like, I'm trying to figure out who this Dana Boone is, because he's like, everybody I'm talking to is talking, because when I was at South Carolina, so I fought a good fight on some kids, and some I won out on and some I didn't, and so it was a learning curve for me to, like, you're transitioning now your competitive nature into your sport. So I remember that. I don't know if he'll remember that, but I remember him saying something to me about because we were bumping heads a lot in recruiting, because he was at Auburn at the time and I was at South Carolina, not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm just calling everybody talking, so
sometimes it's good that and not necessarily using this word with your example there, but the naivety of, like, people that you're supposed to call and yet you're not. Some people are supposed to go to this school and not this school, and you're just like, if you're good, I think you should be in our conference, and I'm going to try it. Let's see what happens.
So that was fun. So I take South Carolina as a big learning curve in a lot of ways. Had to do a lot of meet management and stuff like that. But I was there at a very interesting time. Like I said, had Larry Judge was there, and we had Dawn Ellerby. The throws were killing it in that conference, and it was a good time. And I learned a lot in that year, but not wanting to leave something undone, I left and I went back. I called Coach Hayes up and I said, hey, can I come back? Because I need to finish my degree. And he was like, yeah, you can come back. And, I came back and I mean, when he hired me, because remember, I was a graduate assistant at first. I came back and I was part-time, and I was literally getting $500 a month. That's what I was getting. And so that's actually when I was working at the grocery store. So I was getting the $500 and then I work at the grocery store from like 6 to 12 or 6 to 1 or something every day to make ends meet. And then I was training. And then a year later, I was hired as his first full-time assistant. I was his first paid full-time assistant in the history of the program. Like for 32 years, he hadn't had a paid assistant. So I became his first one, and I think I was making like $20,000. That was
a big pay raise.
Big pay raise for $500.
You're rich.
I was like, yeah, man, yeah. So I did finish my degree. I took those 2 classes, and I continued to coach. While I was there.
I'll do some research. I wonder, it has to be phenomenal. Dean Hayes coaching tree. So the people that came through, whether they're athletes and they went on to coach, or assistant coaches or grad assistants that went on and coach, just for longevity, there's going to be some interesting, but his actual teaching and motivation of people to become coaches and how they coach, that would be an interesting project. And
like I said, I appreciate that he saw something in me, because like I said, there was a couple other people there too in the same boat. He could have chosen anyone, but I'm thankful that he saw something in me. And his coaching tree does go a long way. You just never know. He's connected to a lot of people. So
and his not to get off subject here about Dean, but his memory is amazing. We had a kid at Troy that transferred up to Middle Tennessee State, and I was a lowly student coach, I was nobody. And he still, every time we talk every year, kind of like you, we catch up every year, he will tell me how that athlete's doing. Like, oh yeah, they're a police officer now in this
Yep.
town. And it's like, you've had thousands of athletes, Dean. How do you remember
Yeah.
this one that was connected to me?
He
It's
doesn't
quite
forget.
amazing.
No.
Quite amazing. So where
That
did the journey take us after Middle Tennessee State?
so just to mention, when I was at South Carolina, Ron Basil was at Army, and he had come to a meet down there, and he just saw me working. He saw me hustling. I was doing everything. I was moving hurdles. I was raking pits. I was organizing officials. So I remember him calling me and offering me a job at Army. And I was like, I don't think that's my MO. Like, I'm a military child, but I am
Yeah.
not going to
Hmm.
a military academy. I
Okay.
don't, there's just too many rules, I think, for me. So so I passed on that and I went back to Middle Tennessee. And
Mhm.
so I was at Middle Tennessee. And I was kind of getting the itch, and I was like, Coach Hayes, I've been under your wing and it's time for me to fly, and he's like, well, I'm going to retire one day and I want you to take over the program. I'm like, yeah, but there's no telling when that retirement. Good thing I didn't listen.
Isn't that funny? What if you'd have
Yeah,
been like, okay, yeah, you'll retire in 5 years. And here we are many, many
yeah.
years. And that man
I've been
is
coaching 30 years. I'll just say that.
still going strong.
That's why I said, no, I got to go fly and spread my wings. So
If you're
I
going to Middle Tennessee State today and Dean tells you, hey, I'm going to retire soon, don't believe him.
don't
That
don't believe
man,
it. I always kid around with them. I said, man, they're gonna have to pull you off that track. You just go. That's where you're gonna be, and they're just gonna have to remove you from the
Yes.
track. I think if he's not coaching, that's what'll kill him.
Yes. Yeah.
He's
Yes.
a tough guy, and
Absolutely.
he's super super competitive. Loves this sport. Loves to recruit, and
Mhm.
he's still sharp and out at it. So
Mm.
let him have it. So
So where did you spread your wings to?
I spreaded my wings to, where did I go from? Oh, I got a call from Ron Basil, called me back up, and he brought me to Tulane.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Back to
left.
the mugginess.
Yes, I went back to the mugginess, the scene of the crime. Yeah, I went back
Yeah.
to New Orleans, and spent 2 years there. It was a fun time at Tulane. It was we won 2 championships. We were there. Our football team went 12-0 under Tommy Bowden. It was
Oh,
it was a
wow.
crazy time. I remember one time walking out the building and ESPN, all these people are there, and I'm like, no, it's just me. They were looking for Tommy because they were trying to figure out if he was going to stay or not after this 12-0
Right.
season and all of that, waiting for this press conference. But I remember he gave me some advice. He said to me, this
This
was
is
one of the
Tommy.
cool. Yeah, Tommy
Yeah.
Bowden.
Uh-huh.
This is one of the cool things when I worked at Tulane. Everybody was super friendly. Like I could go over to the football office and just go in there and be like, hey guys, what's up? And talk to everybody. So I felt like it was a real unique time at Tulane. Everybody was we're all in that little athletic department and all pretty friendly. But he said, don't stay here longer than 2 years. He said, use this as a stepping stone, win and get out. That's what he told me. And so it was 2 years and we had won. So I was like, I gotta go, So I remember I applied at George Mason for the head job, and I didn't get it. I came down to me and one other person, and obviously the other person got it. Then I applied for the Kentucky job, assistant, and didn't know that Dean Hayes was somehow connected to the head coach. And I just applied, not even thinking anything about it. And all of a sudden I'm top candidate and they're flying me in, and I'm like, oh gosh, and they offered me the job, but I don't know, something in my spirit, it just wasn't the right fit, wasn't the right time for me. So I passed. And so I just decided, hey, I'm going to stay at Tulane and do the best that I can do. And then
Now, hold on. Let's explore this for a little bit because this is interesting. So you applied for the George Mason head job. Did you feel like you were ready to be a head coach, or was that
oh,
just another job? Like it was another opportunity. And I don't mean that to disrespect George Mason, just be like, if it had been an assistant coaching job, maybe you would have applied there.
right.
Was it just an opportunity, or what was it about the?
Well, I don't really know what I was thinking back then, because I probably was not ready to be a head coach,
Mhm.
but it was close to home.
Mm.
I mean, George Mason was 20 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was just like, I can go back home and, kind of, um, you know, And then I didn't really even know I was going to be a finalist. So I just applied, not
Mhm.
really knowing. And then when the reality hit, I was like, oh, shoot, am
Uh-oh.
I really ready to be a head coach? I was like, oh, okay, well, let me go on this interview. And honestly, at the time, I didn't know how to interview for a head coaching job. I was like, wow, okay. So anyway, but yeah,
Well,
so,
and
so
I also like part of that journey there is, Kentucky. And a lot of times in our profession, we look at Division 1 and maybe even more specifically Power 5 schools as the quote unquote dream jobs. We hear
yeah,
about, the covetousness, and there's not many of them and they don't come open very often per se as in aggregate. But you had some, maybe I'll call it self-awareness of like, you know what, this just not right now. Maybe
yeah,
this isn't the right fit. And I don't think we sometimes think about fit. We think about fame. We think about having
yeah,
that Kentucky name behind us or the SEC name
yeah.
behind us.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge pay raise for me at the time. But the money wasn't everything. Something just didn't feel right for me. There was
Hmm.
nothing wrong with the job. It just wasn't a good fit for
Yeah.
me. So I was a praying person. I just kind of said, let me just sit here for a minute. And so
Yeah.
that's what I decided to do. And then honestly, out of the blue, that's where I got a call for University of Texas. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like
Oh,
what?
wow. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I got the call for Texas, and I was probably on a Friday. On Monday, I had a conversation, and by Friday, I was in on an interview, and
Wow.
yeah, and yeah.
So there's an interesting part of well, I mean, all your journey is interesting, but I really want to focus on some of the head coaching duties. It's interesting that you interviewed at George Mason, but you become the head coach at Texas State, and obviously, we've already spoiler alert, you're the head coach at UCF. So, but I do want to go through the different places. So you go to Texas, and then what was after that?
I left Texas to go to LSU.
Okay.
Um, honestly, after Texas, I really didn't know if I wanted to coach anymore.
Okay.
It had just been it was a time to reflect and decide, do I really want to do this or
Is
not?
this really
You know,
who I am?
yes, it's
Hmm.
really who I am.
I can
Because that's
relate.
one thing, is I don't ever want to compromise who I am to do something. And
Hmm.
so I got a call from LSU. I remember because I had resigned from Texas. I just was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I just don't want to coach anymore. So I'm just
Hmm.
gonna, move on in life. And then Boo called me, and I'm like, Boo, I appreciate it, but I'm not interested. So and then he called me back again and said, well, now hold on, Dana. He's like, just come on an interview, just give it a shot, because, there's still fun to be had in this sport. You can, there's different side that you can see. Let's, just come on an interview. So I said, all right, but you know what? I'm gonna come on an interview, but I'm really not gonna take this job. So I come on an interview, and the rest is history. I obviously take the job at LSU. Boo is what I we laugh about it, but I call him. He took me to rehab. He rehabilitated me and restored, my faith in
Wow.
coaching. And every day, you can ask him this too. He took me to lunch almost every day. And every day he'd take me to lunch over at the little sandwich shop, and he just talked to me, and
Mm.
just just kind of revitalized the coaching energy. Um, and then ironically, and it's so funny, I still have this piece of paper. But remember, I told you at the Olympic trials in '92, I got carted off the track and whatever. Well, Boo, if you know Boo, he's good at drawing stick figures. So
Unbelievably good at
yeah.
drawing stick figures.
So on my desk was a stick figure of an ambulance, somebody being carted off in an ambulance. Obviously, he was making reference to when I got carted off the track at the Olympic trials. And I died laughing because I was like, really, Boo? And so I still have that in my office. Like, I have it because I think I screenshot it and sent him. I said, you remember when you did this to me? And it was funny. We just started laughing about it. But, I enjoyed, it was different. It was a different year, definitely being in the SEC and things like that. And, but I learned so much in that year at LSU.
Mhm.
And my intention was to be there a little longer, But what happened was I got a phone call, and I guess Dennis got a phone call and from Oklahoma. And then we were actually at level 2 school in James Madison, and he was like, "Come on, Dana, let's go out to eat." And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And he's like, "Hey, Oklahoma called." And I was like, "I'm not going to Oklahoma. Like, they're like the bottom of the Big 12. There's no way I'm going to Oklahoma. Like, no, So I'm sitting there like, I'm at LSU. We're gonna win the national championship or something, you know. And surprisingly, he said, "I think you ought to take a look." I was like, "You want me to take a look at it?" Because if he hadn't, honestly, I don't know, if he hadn't said maybe you should take a look at it, I don't know that I really would have. And so I talked to Martin, and he kind of pushed that competitive button in you. It's like, hey, you can come back to the Big 12 and show everybody what kind of coach you really are. And, you can do your thing. I'm not going to bother. It's your event group, and you're running this. It's completely on your own. And, I wasn't doing that at LSU. So I was like, the challenge of, hey, this is going to be the first time really in my coaching career where I'm 100% responsible for everything. So I took the challenge. I was like, game on, I'll take it. So I went to Oklahoma, and I remember Jeremy Fisher was there on the interview.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, nice.
he was already signed on, and and so I was looking forward to working with him. And so
You mentioned James Madison level 2. Was this 2003?
it had to be. I left for I was at let's see, I left Texas in 2004. So I was at LSU from 2004 to 2005. So I went to Oklahoma in 2005. So it must have been 2005 level.
Okay.
It was either 4 or 5 with James.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I was at James Madison level 2, and that's when I got notified that I had gotten the Mississippi State job. That's why it just
Maybe
rings.
we met there.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot was going on at that.
A ton. Yeah. If you're not at Coach's Education, you're missing out. Let me tell you.
I've seen so many jobs happen at Coach's.
Yeah. And Dennis was I was doing sprints and hurdles there. Dennis was one of my.
Well, me too. That's we probably were in the same class then. That's probably where we met.
That's what it was. I love these stories of the selflessness of, I'm going to call them mentors. You didn't use that word necessarily, but these coaches around you, Boo taking a second phone call to you, like, yeah, I heard you. I think there's something special about you, Dana. I'm going to call you again. And then taking the time to pour into you. It's awesome, because we hear about Boo, and, I owe everything of my coaching, and that kid I talked about at Ball State, that was all because I went to level 2 and Boo taught me jumps. Yeah. I mean, it was all, the stick figures and coaching and training theory. And, but I love that story of Boo, like, not coaching, but coaching, coaching the person, not the event. And then for Dennis Shaver, I mean, he's got someone on staff. He doesn't necessarily want to lose them and have to hire other people and things like that. And he says, maybe his mindset was like, this is better for you. Maybe you should take a look at it.
Well, I think and if I'm completely honest, and he and I talked about that, I don't think he would mind me saying, but I think it was one of those things where we were trying to get some more money out of LSU. And so it was kind of like, hey, go take this job opportunity in hopes that we can counter offer it, because it was a $10,000 raise, so, hey, maybe we can counter offer it and make your situation better here, so you'll want to stay. I think it was that kind of thing. And he was upfront about it, but it definitely, I went through the process. I think the process was, hopefully, maybe I didn't want to take it, but in the end they did come back. But it was just a financial better situation. Although they did offer a raise, but it was a financially better situation for me to go to Oklahoma. And, at the same time, I when I got to LSU, I'd already been coaching 14 years. So if I had gotten that job as an introductory person, boy, what a difference that would have made. And I would have been there a long time. I would have learned so much, but I was already 14 years in. So it was very hard to just kind of sit there and not have that much to do. I was more
the control over
the manager of the personnel of okay, these girls, make sure we got some issues going on over here in the dorm, or the academic thing, community service type thing, those things. So it was less about coaching per se, but more recruiting and managing of people, which is fine. But I just felt like at that point in time in my career, I needed a little bit more to do,
You were
coaching wise.
you were searching for having that Dana Boone group, like you had
Yeah,
the whole purview of it,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
got that at Oklahoma.
Yeah, because that's what, and that was, hard. What some people didn't understand about my coaching journey is I worked under somebody for the longest. Like I did not have a complete, Oklahoma was the first time I had a complete group to myself where no one was saying, hey, let me see your workouts, or hey, you're going to do this part of the workout training and you can just do the technical part, but I'm going to do all the rest of it, So that was the first time I was getting the opportunity to stand on my own. So that was kind of hard to turn down.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I don't think anybody can hear that and disagree with that. It's like, standing on your own 2 feet, so to speak.
Yeah.
So how was Oklahoma and working for Coach Martin, who I owe a lot, again, another person in my life, coaching wise, that did a lot for me. How was that?
It was definitely interesting. It was definitely different. Like I said, I appreciate my time at Texas. I learned a lot about myself. And I learned a lot about a lot of things at Oklahoma as well. We were successful, but I just learned to, I learned a lot more about who I am and who I am as a coach, and just trusting myself and believing in myself that I can get this done. So yeah, I learned some things from Martin. I learned some things, some good things and some not so good things,
Well,
So
tell
as
me
a
more
head
about,
coach, huh?
oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but you said something super interesting there about learning who you were as a person and a coach. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, sometimes when you're put in difficult situations, you you might not realize something about yourself until you have to overcome those situations. So I realized that I just learned a lot about myself. I didn't give myself as much credit as I really should have in terms of just being strong enough, smart enough to get it done and to handle and to manage situations, and just
Like,
taking all those years of experience and being able to apply them. Because I learned something from everywhere I went, and I was able to take all of those things, and I needed it all. It's like every step prepared me for that next step. And so some of the things I experienced at Oklahoma, my previous stops prepared me for that.
it sounds like this was I'm gonna say culmination, even though we typically think of culmination as an end, and this is definitely not the end of your story,
Right.
but like the buildup of everything from you learned from Coach Kraft and Coach Hayes and Boo and all these people that have poured into you. Now you get to show and you build your own self-confidence with it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. Because we all do this, put stuff on your resume that you were there because you were there and you were a part of it to some degree. You were part of the recruiting process, you were around at practice and stuff. But it's something different when you put that on your resume and you took that person from point A and got them to point B or C or D
Right.
or whatever. So for me, that was the culmination, as you say. It was recruiting and developing my group. And so when you look up and we go from 12th in the Big 12, the first year I took that job, we were 12th out of 12 teams, and then we go in our first year indoors, and we finished fourth with our highest point total. And then you know and I it was a crazy time because we only took 12 girls to that indoor.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Wow.
had 15 girls in my group. I took 3. I told them, I said, hey, we can not show up and be last. So I don't need to take everybody. It's just at the end of the day, either you want to be good or you don't, and you have to make that decision. And to their credit, I mean, I didn't take a 4x4. Think about how crazy that is. I didn't bring a 4x4. We were running bad. It was bad. And
Wow.
so, but outdoor, they were a different team, and no one wanted to be left home. And I took everybody, and almost every person scored, or did something to help the team. And,
Right.
we were still, in the bottom half, probably ninth or
Oof.
eighth or somewhere in the Big 12, but we made a lot of improvement. And from there it went up. And the crazy thing is, we were never able to win a women's title. While I was there, we won two men's titles, but the women were tough because, I mean, you think back then you had Nebraska in there, you had
Mm. Oh.
A&M, and a
Mm-hmm.
sprint final was like making the NCAA championship. It was one of those times where, like, if you could make a Big 12 sprint final, you had a shot that you could possibly make the NCAA sprint final. And if you made the sprint final, you were going to the national meet because it was tough. And I mean, even my last year there, when Candace did win the NCAA meet, she was second and third in the 100 and 200. She was third in the 100 and second in the 200 of the Big 12. She couldn't win a conference title.
Wow.
And I remember telling her, I said, well, hey, you want this one or you want to win the big one? I was like, it is what it, and we finished third as a team. That was the highest we could finish, but then we finished fourth in the nation. So
Yeah.
we were 8 points out of winning a championship. So it's kind of like,
Hmm.
it was a tough time at that particular time. The way the conference was set up, it was
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Those are tough ways to coach, when you're
Yeah.
in these Big 12s and SECs and, you're getting fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth as a team, but yet you're also getting fourth, fifth, sixth, because the way,
National.
points are different at nationals versus
Yeah.
conference, but it's a tough to stay motivated, I think sometimes. My experience, from being at
Yeah.
Mississippi State that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely tough when you're in such a tough conference that you could
Mhm.
have a stellar team and it's still going to only put you down here, but then you go to nationals and you could probably put more points up on the board because you have the quality and
Right.
you're a top 10 program. So it's just a matter of, what does your administration want from you?
Hmm.
And if they really want the conference thing, then you better recruit to,
Hmm.
figure out how to be the top part of the conference and win a conference championship. Or if they want the nationals, then, it's kind of finding that balance of
Hmm.
kids. So that's definitely tough in those conferences like that.
You mentioned you won two men's titles for Big 12.
Yeah. Well, the first one was I think what 2007. The coach left. The coach left in at mid-year or in the fall, and so instead of trying to hire somebody new, I told Coach Smith that I would coach the men if that's what he needed me to do. If he
Mm.
couldn't find the right person, I definitely would step up. And so that's what I did, and we won the outdoor title, the first one in 30 years. And that was so much fun. And
Yeah.
then we went on to regionals, and that's when they had the four regions, and we won the Midwest region title as well.
Yeah.
And then we went to nationals with that year. We had two 4x1s and men's and women's, and two 4x4s and men's and women's, and like we had a ton of kids. That year Oklahoma was 2007 was a very good year for both sides.
I was gonna say that's a big deal. Not many teams have won a Big 12 title. It's very compacted to the same teams year over year.
Yeah.
So when a Texas Tech and Oklahoma and Baylor recently won the women's indoor, like that's a big deal. That
Yeah.
does not happen. It's the
Right.
quote
Yeah.
unquote same school in
Yeah, it's
schools.
usually Texas or
Yeah, Nebraska when they were in. Yeah, right. They ruled the roost for quite a while. Yeah. So you stay inside a conference and you go from Oklahoma to Texas Tech.
Well, I go to Oklahoma to Texas State.
And then bounce to Tech and then back to State.
No, I went from Oklahoma to Texas State and then
Mhm.
from Texas State to Texas Tech.
And then Tech to UCF.
Correct.
Oh, okay. For some reason
I
I
know
was thinking
there's a lot of
states.
bouncing
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
around. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
See,
And it and it's not like I sit here and go, oh, let me just keep moving all this time.
Mhm.
I really honestly, except for the times that I told you that I applied for those jobs, I really am just minding my business, not really looking for, like,
right.
when I was at Oklahoma, after I did apply for Texas State at Oklahoma because I just felt like it was time for me to go.
Mm.
Um, it was time for me to go. So I did apply for Texas State, and that took a long time before I ever got a phone call. So I didn't know what I was going to do if I did not get that job, but I did get the job, and I had a wonderful 4 years there. It was awesome.
Well,
Had a great staff. Won
it,
some
it
championships. It was a lot of fun.
it definitely feels like up to this point in your career, at least that we've gone through, every step has been there. There's been something there for you. It wasn't like, I've, admitted I can now after, 15 plus years of being out of the coaching profession, my whole career, I was that guy who was searching for that title. Like I was all about getting to the SEC for me. Like that was
Yeah.
all it was. And then I
Yeah.
made it. Right. And then I realized like, oh, maybe the grass isn't as always greener
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
But that's what I was pursuing, was the quote unquote fame of being an SEC coach. That's not your story. I mean, you were in the SEC and LSU in South Carolina and the Big 12 at Oklahoma, and so it seemed like every step for you was about really. I'm gonna use the word enrichment. Like you got better, and the right
Yeah.
people were at each
Yeah.
place.
I would definitely say that. That's a good way to say it. It's like I've never just taken a job just because of money, but there's always been a purpose
Mm,
for me. And I like you said, I was never chasing the titles. Like um I never necessarily was like, oh, I gotta get to the big time, The
mhm,
big time came, I saw, and I'm like, I
mhm,
could I could go
mhm,
either way, because I've been at the mid majors and it's fun, Coach Hayes is one of the most successful people at that level, and he's had people at nationals and stuff. And so I'm like, you can be successful at any level
mhm,
with the determination that you want. Now the resources are always
mhm,
nice. It got a little tough there at Texas State,
mhm,
sometimes budget wise and things like that. But I enjoyed coming to work every single day. For me, it was the quality of life at that time. At that time I was leaving, I had been successful. I feel like I have to leave the place better than when I found it.
yeah.
So Oklahoma, we were better. When I left, we were fourth in the nation as a team on the women's side. We finished
Mhm,
third in the conference. That's a lot better than the 12th that we were when I started. We had some national champions. We rewrote some of the a lot of the record books and stuff like that. We had some great success. So I feel like it was time for me to go. Um, then it was like, hey, can I be a head coach?
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Was that part of the next step in the
Yeah,
mission? Like, is this what I'm supposed to be? Can I do
yeah,
this?
exactly. I think it was one of those things where I was like, I need to decide if head coaching is really what I want to do, or do I just want to remain an assistant, or what is it? What is it? Where's my niche? Like what am I going to do next?
Mhm,
And because I don't want to be that person, despite what people may think. I don't want to bounce around. I'm tired of moving. I don't want to move anymore.
mhm,
I just want to be somewhere where I can be successful. I can win some championships. I can get at nationals. I can enjoy my life. My son has a good life, and I'm financially stable. So
mhm,
those are the things that motivate me. Whether that's the SEC or whatever.
mhm,
I'm a big person on being true to who I am. It doesn't matter what other people think about me or what other people feel like I should be doing. It's
mhm,
about what does Dana think is best for her, regardless of what everyone else thinks I should be doing.
mhm,
And so that's something I had to learn is putting myself into consideration and not really worrying about what other people, because people can project on you what they think you should be doing with your life. And I don't ever want to do that for anybody. I always ask people, well, what do you want to do? Like, what's your purpose? I don't care what everybody else is telling you should be doing. Maybe that's not what your motivation is. And I'm okay with that. So
I remember your time at Texas State. I came down and visited almost
yeah,
yearly through some different times, and you mentioned your staff, great people, of course. One
yeah,
of my good friends, Keith, was there,
yeah.
which, did you see his athlete just set
Oh
the
my gosh.
right?
You see? I'm so proud.
You know,
All of them.
I've told Keith this, and and I'm so blessed that he brings the joke back to me as well. I taught his level one, so
Oh
I
yeah.
take 100% credit for all
Yes,
of
you
his
do.
athletes' positives, none of the negatives, but
Right.
all his So I saw that kid jump 833 or whatever, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's because of the things that I taught.
Yes, and level
Keith.
one, of course.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm glad you see it my way. I
Yes.
appreciate that. Um, one of the things that struck me at Texas State is I got to see your development at Texas State because I was there, again, brief times once a year, but seeing your interaction with the kids. I remember one day popping in to the weight room and the energy and what I could tell as far as relationship amongst you and the athletes was off the charts. How
Yeah.
did you develop? And maybe that's been, I've not seen you necessarily at spots at like Oklahoma and LSU, et cetera, in your previous part of your career. How have is that a strength of yours? Is that something you're conscious of, or is that just you and your personality?
Um, I think, the one part that when you take over someone else's program, it's always a little bit of a rough spot in there where there's transition of kids that you didn't recruit.
Mm.
And then maybe you bring in your own kids. And then there's always they always feel like, oh, you like this person better or something like that. But in reality, what it is I spent a year recruiting this person. So I've been to this person's house, whereas I didn't bring that person in. So I'm just walking in cold, and we don't have the same amount of time to develop a relationship. So probably what you saw at Texas State was the culmination of all of us, all of our energy. But yeah, we recruited. We recruited off of passion and energy. A lot of it was about personality, and every kid knew that we were going to have a good time, but at the same time, we weren't playing around about business. We were here to win some championships, and you were expected to do your job. You expected to get good grades, but we can enjoy the process too. So yeah, we had our own little weight room. We come in there and we just bring the energy. It was a lot of fun. The personalities on the staff, the kids, they felt comfortable. We were competitive as a staff. Like, we were challenging those kids all the time. Like, we challenged them to bowling. They tried to beat us in bowling. I mean, it was like any kind of game you could find. We were down for that as a staff. Like, I remember having the kids over to the house. I mean, if it was spades, we were going to whoop up on them on spades. We showed no mercy to any of those kids, but they knew that we loved and cared about them. But we were competitive people.
Awesome.
But at the same time, we were fun, felt like there was a good balance of, all right, now it's time to go to work. This is the expectation. But here afterwards, let's enjoy this, the work that we put in together.
How do you balance that? There's different philosophies in coaching, and maybe there is no one philosophy, right? There's mixtures of different ones, but there's the tough coach. We're here to do a job. We're here to win championships. Also, you're here to get a degree, but all the fun stuff, that's superfluous. And then there's the complete opposite of, hey, we're here to participate, and if we win, we win. You seem to have I don't even want to call it a balance. It seems like I'm hearing you go from, yeah, we're going to have fun and we're going to play spades and bowling. And you know what? We have a job to do. We're going to get on that track and work hard. How do you balance that? And where did maybe that even come from?
It came from seeing both sides, like extremes, like living in an environment where there was no fun and it was all business, and it was for me, it didn't fit my personality. So I have adopted my personality. And so I lead with my personality, and my personality is like, hey, hey, we're all here. We're on the same mission. And I want you to have a good time. I want you to enjoy this. I want you to have a good quality of life. But at the end of the day, I'm still holding you accountable. Like, I'm not going to micromanage you, but you understand I'm coming back and I'm going to look at everything that you've done, but I'm not going to sit up here and put my thumb on you all day. I'm going to say, here are my expectations for you. Here's now how you want to get it done is up to you, but you understand at the end of the day, you're accountable for what I expect. Wow. And so that's where it's kind of come from. It's been like, hey, I've seen the way I've been treated. I've seen environments that I've been in and the things that I liked and things that I didn't like. And so I tried to bring that together, and bring it with my personality. I feel like if I hire good competitive people, that I really don't have to micromanage them, because they're competitive enough that they want to be good, and they know that if we do what we're supposed to do, I'm gonna take care of them. Everybody's gonna reap the reward if we do well. So I've always been a believer in that you have to be invested in the program. Like, you have to understand, and like, if this was your money, how would you spend it? Like, you have to, because when you don't feel a part of it, it's real easy to treat it any kind of way and not to maybe do your job to the level of that you're expected. So if I make them believe or feel that they're a part of something, this is something we're building together, because we are, like when I do my Zoom call, now we've had to adapt to Zoom calls, I make sure my whole staff gets on there, and the recruits meet the whole staff, not just coach who's gonna, because at some point in time, you're gonna interact with them. My distance coach comes out to practice every Tuesday and Friday and helps me time, because I got too many groups, and it's his way to be a part of the team. And he was like, Coach, I just want to be your right hand man. However I can help you. You know how you can help me? Come out to practice some days when I need some extra help. So if he does that, because he practices in the morning. Sometimes I'm like, hey, can you come out? And he's willing to film practice if that's what I need him to do. And so anybody who understands that your ego is not the most important thing, and whatever is necessary in order for the team to be successful, those are the type of people that I ride with. Those are the type of people that I want to build my staff with. And those are the type of people that I can rely on, because they understand this is bigger than them. It's not about their ego.
What I heard there, from your coaching to also your management of a staff, it's this is going to sound crazy, Dana. It sounds like you coach and manage and lead as if these 18 to 22-year-olds and these guys and gals on your staff are adults. Like, how dare you? Like, there's going to be accountability, but I'm not going to micromanage you. I hired you for a job, whether that's an assistant coach or whether that's a scholarship athlete. I'm going to give you the tools to do it. Now go do it.
Yeah. And I do that with my support staff too. I'm like, look, I don't want to do your job. If I got to do your job, like, why are we paying you for you? I don't want to do anybody else's job but my job. I want to be the head coach and coach the events that I do. So if you're the academic person, do your academic job. If you're the trainer, do your training room job. If you're the strength coach, now remember, everything comes back to me though. Every decision is still mine. They all understand that nobody does anything without my approval. But I feel like there's a level of respect when you give them the leeway to be themselves and to groom and to grow, because that, in some respects, that's how you have to figure out, how do you lead a program, at some point in time, you have to do, I always make sure everybody has responsibilities. When I hire people, I ask first about their character. I'm like, who are you when nobody's up watching? Like, what type of person are you? I don't really care if you coach or not. I need to know, are you a good person? And, are you going to do the right things? Because those things are important to me. And then I ask, well, what are you going to bring to the table? Besides the excellent, like what skill set do you possess that is going to help make UCF better? So those are the type of things that are important to me, because when somebody just throws their coaching resume at me, you could have a great coaching resume and be a horrible person. And I'm not really for that, because I don't want to have to every 2 minutes look around and see if you're going to stab me in the back or not. I'm not really into that. I want to go to work saying, hey, we're a team. You understand, we're in this together. Everybody needs to do their job. I want the kids happy. I want the kids focused. I want them ready when they need to be. And however you want to get that done, now I'll put my little 2 cents every now and then if I don't see things that I feel like I'm going to pull you aside and say, well, hey, what's going on over here? You might want to try to turn this up a little bit, or, whatever I feel like I need to say. But ultimately, it's going to end on you, but you understand that I'm always coming back. And at the end, I'm going to look and say, well, here's what I asked you to do. Here's the expectations. Did you meet those expectations? I'm not gonna, if that means that, I'm not sitting up here like, you better be in the office at 8:00 and you got to stay till 8 p.m. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say, did you fill this event area? Because I want all these event areas in your group. You're responsible for all these. Do we have scoring potential in all of these things? And if not, have we talked about that? I said, okay, you can leave that one blank because it doesn't make much sense there. We're going to go here, So we have talked enough about recruiting. We have talked enough about our plan, our vision, our focus. How are we going to win this championship? Now you got to fill those holes that's your responsibility. Now I'm gonna sign off on it, because if I don't like the person, or, there's something I might not want to put that much money in them or something like that, and then obviously that's my decision. Money offers are usually my decision, but I am going to ask the coach, well, what do you think they're worth? Like, well, what would you, if this was your money, this is your scholarship, are you going to bank? You feel like this is what their value is? What are they going to bring to the table long term, and how do they walk in? So I'm going to challenge you as a head coach to ask you all the questions that if you were the head coach, would you make this decision? And sometimes we'll agree and sometimes we won't agree, because sometimes I'll be like, nope, I'm not putting any more money over here. That's it. Sorry. Or,
Dana, you just gave us a master class in what high functioning, results oriented coaches are looking for in interviewing and resumes and things like that. That was great. That was awesome.
Yeah, because I really want people to do their job. I don't want to have to do your job and feel like I got to come over there. Well, what are you guys doing today?
Right.
Okay, well, I want you to do that. No, hey man, get it done. Look, are they going to be ready on meet day? How many points can they score? Now I'm going to ask you all that, because when you tell me that, that's what I expect. Right. So that's all I'm gonna do. My expectations don't change. I'm just not going to micromanage you to get those expectations.
Well, I want to be cognizant of your time, and we're getting close to our time. And I got some questions from Twitter. You've seen them. Yeah, you've seen a couple of them. But I don't want to gloss over real quick. So from Texas State to Texas Tech, and I have such high respect for the coaches that are there, the James Robinson, James and Calvin and Wes. And I'm missing people, of course, but I mean, just amazing people there. How was that time on staff with them?
It was a lot of fun. Coach Kitley is an awesome guy, a great leader, very, very down to earth, very welcoming. Him and his family were very kind to me while I was there. Definitely enjoyed the experience there. I hope I did my job there. The object that I was supposed to help, kind of when I got there, I think there was only 2 or 3 women's recruits there. So that's what I was supposed to do, is recruit some more women to the team to help make the team better. And hopefully I did that. And as you can see, they are definitely doing extremely well and having won the. I told them that when I left, I said, now that I'm leaving, you're going to win the national championship. That always happens. The year after I leave, that's the year they win. So, pretty much I was like, hey, when y'all get that championship, kick some money back.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm joking, but they worked extremely hard and they did a great job. So
awesome. Okay, so I love reaching out to Twitter. And you know what, by the way, you are a prolific tweeter, by the way. Even this morning, there was a response on my Twitter from like 3:58. I think that was my time, so 4:58 your time. You like the Twitter.
Well, when I wake up and I don't have anything else to do, I just grab my phone and I'm just like, let me see what's going on. Yeah.
Well, I love it. I'm a huge social media advocate, so I'm all good. There's no judgment from me. I love it. In fact, I judge the opposite way. When you have a Twitter account or any social media account and you don't post things, like, well, that's like having a telephone but not answering. What are you doing here? You don't have to be on Twitter, and get off of it if you don't want to respond. Okay, anyway, let's get to some questions from some awesome people out in Twitter land. So a great friend of ours, Tom Sage, he asked, he makes a statement, says, Coach Dana, every place you've coached, success has followed. And I think we saw a lot of those examples there. What are some tips that you have for cultivating a successful culture? And then he asked, do you make the Gatorade? And I'm gonna add on to it, meaning, so what's in the Gatorade? All these places, a lot of success, a lot of improvements. What are some tips you have for cultivating that culture? And what are you putting in that Gatorade?
Well, along my coaching stops, I have learned that to be a leader, you have to be willing to be a servant. So to ask, do I make the Gatorade? Yes, I'll make the great Gatorade. I'll clean out the shed. I move my hurdles every day. I do everything myself pretty much at practice. I set everything up myself. I am willing to do whatever is necessary. If that means when we get off the bus, because we're just a women's staff, and so sometimes you don't have all the the fluff that other programs have. So if that means I got to carry a case of water inside to the meet, then I'm gonna carry the case of water inside to the meet, because that's what the athletes need. I'm not above doing whatever's necessary. As far as success, I've always been a big advocate of knowing where you are, meaning when you walk into a place, you can have a whole plan and philosophy, but if that's not what what the administration wants, then you might need to adapt you know. Because I was working somewhere, and if I had national type aspirations, but they really only cared about winning the conference championship, it didn't matter what I did on a national basis. If I wasn't winning these conference championships, they were going to have a problem with it. So you have to figure out where you work. And then that has been my model for success. What is it that you want from me? Okay. Once I know that, that's how I operate. And that's how I try to put together my formula for success. Now, I've never been a person for quick fixes. I think when you do quick fixes, you might set yourself up for bigger falls. I like to try to build the foundation, which means you might see a slower progress for the program than somebody coming in instantly and they're just putting all these pieces together, because the wrong pieces in the puzzle, a house will fall without the correct foundation. So I always say, take your time and build it right. So I always make sure that the administration understands what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to do. But I don't know if that answered your question.
I love that lesson of congruency, being in sync with your administration, if we're talking about that type of position, with your coaching staff, and even when you're with your athletes. If there's a different goal set and you're butting heads, well, not only, less things are going to happen positively, but frustrations are going to happen on both sides, and no one's going to be happy at that point. So either making sure you're congruent with your administration, your athlete, your coaching staff, or finding those situations where you can be congruent with those. That's a great lesson. No show is complete without hearing from our friend Lamont Johnson. I don't even know what Lamont's talking about here, but that's pretty par for the course.
Yeah.
So Lamont, Lamont's Lamont, and that's actually probably one of the best compliments I can give him, because he is a unique person in all the positive ways. I love Lamont to death here. So he says to ask you about what's this back and forth, and of course he does the I don't know what they call the shifty eye emojis, between you and Lamont. And I do, no explanation is even needed here. Go on Twitter. First of all, making sure you're following these two people. They're awesome, Dana and Lamont, and just sit back. Like I do the eating popcorn gif a lot. I'm just here for the show. You guys back and forth.
You know what? I don't know how it started or why, but I know the first time he put some eyes on my paper, I was like, what's he looking at me like that for? So I put 2 eyes back, and then he put 3 eyes. So then I just said, you know what? I'm going to put a whole paragraph full of eyes, and that usually shuts him down. But Lamont is the type of person that'll get on my social media and ruin the power episodes before they come out, So I'll put out there that I'm about to block him, and then that just motivates him more. So I don't know. He's just like that guy that just likes to just mess with you, but he's a great guy, very encouraging, always uplifting. So, it's just something we do.
The only thing I would disagree with what you just said is, you said if you put a paragraph of eyes, that will usually shut him up. I have yet to find a time where Bot shuts up.
He won't respond with more eyes if I do the paragraph of eyes. He usually doesn't go beyond that. So
he then said, when do you need your new coach to report to Orlando? And he's talking about himself. And then he gave this very disturbing guy a gif of kicking a door. And I was like, Lamont, that's breaking and entering, my friend. Let's not do that.
Much. But yeah, since COVID started, he's always talking about how's our team doing. Yeah, we're coming down. I'm coming down there to be your assistant coach. I said, oh, volunteer coach, because I only have, So it's just been a running joke. So he'll just say, "Oh, how's our team?" And I'm like, "My team is fine. How's yours?"
But I do love that. What respect of like,
Yeah.
hey, if the opportunity came, if the right situations for all of us, I'd be on your staff. Like that's a huge, huge
Yeah,
compliment. I
I
like that.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
I tell them though, get in line. I get those emails and calls all the time. Text, I'm gonna come down there. I'd like to live in Florida. I'm like, I get it.
Again, I think that is a direct reflection on you as a leader, honestly.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. So, good friend of ours, Cut the Check, Coach Kenny over at
Oh, yeah.
Central Methodist, who we've had on the show. You got to go back and listen to
Yeah.
his episode. It's awesome. I thought this was really telling. So, he gets he is his MO, if you will, is recruiting. Like everybody thinks or knows, he is always getting after it. So I, on one hand, find this question extremely funny, but then I think I see the subtext to it. Like this guy is always learning. That this is what this question feels like to me. So Kenny says, is there anything specific or common with the type of athletes you recruit? What is your strategy? He says. Now,
Oh, you want me to tell? No.
I was gonna say, be careful.
Well, I mean,
What is it about recruiting that you look for?
for me, it's more common sense. Obviously, I like the athlete that can do a lot of things. So I've never been a big person on I'm a specialist in this, I can only do this. If I sign somebody like that has one event, it's because I need to fill a specific hole,
Mhm.
and it's maybe it is a little bit of a quick fix. But I like to, find the athletes that can run up or run down. 1, 2, 4 athletes are
Mm.
my favorite. People that can run 1, 2, or 4. I'm loving. I got hurdlers that can sprint and stuff. One of my favorite athletes that we signed is Renaya Jones, because she was 13.5 in the hurdles, but she ran 11.8, 23.8. She ran 60. She ran 41.2 in the 300 hurdles. So it's like,
Wow.
we just haven't had an outdoor season yet. She has yet to run her first outdoor season, but there's so much variety that we can do with her. So I like athletes that provide variety. So it's one person that has a lot of options, because when you go to the conference meet, I love 400. And this is what's fun about my group now, the 400 people. I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna drop this 400 down. I still got this many people that have the ability to be versatile.
Hmm.
That can run on a 4x1, or they can run, the 400 hurdles. They can run a 4x4. If you're a short sprinter that can, run on the relay and you like to run. So I know now for me, the biggest thing is mentality too. Like, do you have the competitive mentality? Are you not afraid to run? And as if you are not afraid to run and you got some ability, I'm all for it. Because it's hard coaching people that have the ability and they're afraid to use it.
Do you find, using that young lady you mentioned, do you find that type of athlete, so that more versatile athlete, 13 and a half, 41 point, versus using that same athlete, if she would have come to you as a 13 flat, but maybe 44, do you find that more versatile athlete um, has the ability to become better, has more
I do.
probability? I'm not sure I'm asking that real well, but
I feel like the more athletic they are, the more opportunity you have for even more um, growth.
hmm.
So don't get me wrong, the 13 flat, I love to have it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is going from 13 flat to 12.5. That's a big jump, and
Mhm.
it requires a whole lot. Whereas the 13.5, you don't know what she can run, because she's been running all different kinds of things, and it's
Mhm.
like they haven't had a chance to really zone in on anything. And for me, watching her and coaching her, there's so much to clean up. She's
Mm.
getting better. But like I said, we have yet to have an outdoor season. So she hasn't even gotten to go to her true best season, as dealing with a lot of these Florida kids, they've run indoor maybe once,
Oh,
once a
sure. Yeah.
year, but their true love and true, area of where they can shine is outside. And we just haven't had a season yet. So
Yeah. It's a good
I'm
point.
looking forward to it. But yeah, I would definitely choose the athlete that has a lot of different or an athlete that plays other sports.
Mm-hmm.
So if they did run 13 flat, but maybe they were a volleyball player or a soccer player, they just did something else. I just like truly athletic people. I'm not a big fan of people I've been running track since I'm 6 years old, and then they've gotten to, to this point. I like, hey, I was playing this, I was doing this, and I came back, and
That volleyball player who played basketball and then also did.
Yeah, and then track was like the third sport they did, but then you're like, man, they did this, and they haven't even focused on that yet.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And last question, and this is a great way to wrap up today. Eric Hannenberger asked us, hey, ask Coach Boone, I love this. What is your favorite thing to do not track related?
Oh man.
That's a great question, Eric. Thank you for asking that.
It is anything with my son. He is so much fun. He loves Orlando, obviously. He said we can never leave here, we can never move. So actually it's funny, but this weekend we are gonna go do like battleground laser tag, like where it's outside and you get the actual like combat uniforms and like the for real outside guns, like a for real laser tag thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think he's going to be surprised because I think he's going to think it's like the little indoor laser tag that we've played before, but this is called Ultimate Laser Tag. And so we're going to check it out. Should be fun.
Well, Dana, you are who you are, and your role, your profession is coaching. I absolutely love my favorite social media post from you, and we're connected on Facebook and other places, are those images and videos that you do with your little boy. I mean, it's just that to me is what you coach so that you can parent. You don't parent so that you can cook. I just love those, and you obviously have an amazing relationship with him. He also seems like he might be a comedian one day. He's a pretty funny kid, man. I love it to death.
He is pretty funny, and the girls all love him, and I have to laugh because he likes to get on we do curfew checks sometimes during this pandemic, just for safety reasons, that we're not out doing stuff we're not supposed to do. But he likes to get on the call and say, hey, good night. And they're all just like, oh, hey, Jay. Everyone loves to see his little face, but he likes to think he's part of the team. So,
well, and he's getting early acceleration strength training when he's pushing the hurdles on the carts. You got the track kid 101, baby. I love it. That's awesome.
Cones, he sets things up. He's definitely a track kid.
Say, I'm going to do this podcast for the next 20, 30 years. I'm going to have him on the show one day talking about how did you get into coaching track? And I'm like, well, actually, I know this, Jackson. I watched you grow up.
Yep. I don't know what this kid is going to do. I don't even know if he's really even going to do sports. He's starting to play soccer with some of the kids in the neighborhood. And I wanted him to do soccer, but he hasn't really taken an interest. He did flag football, but I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but he liked the practice better than the games. And I was like, what are you crazy? But I'm just letting him find his way. And whatever brings his happiness and joy, we'll figure out what he wants to do with his life.
Well, you're doing an awesome job. Mom is the most important title you can have, and I just love watching you pour into him. And that's where I'm the most proudest of, being if I can't call myself a friend of yours, Dana, that's where I'm most proud of just what you're doing as a mom. That's the most important thing that you can be doing. And the cool thing for our sport is you're also doing a great job coaching, pouring into our athletes out there, and the coaches that you've had that poured into you. It seems very obvious that you are doing the same for their development. For the assistant coaches that get an opportunity to come through your program, they're going to be bigger and better coaches because of it.
Yeah, I truly hope that's true. I want my coaches to do such a great job that people do come and take them from me, even though I don't want them to go. And then, I appreciate the loyalty of the ones that want to stay, if this is where they want to go. So I'm just excited for the future for us here at UCF. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And of course, we're friends, and I appreciate all you do for the sport.
Well, you humble me, Dana. Thank you so much for saying that. And thank you so much for being here. One of the most valuable and important things you can give me is your time. There's other things you could have and maybe should have been doing during this time. So I'm just so thankful for you joining us today and, sharing your journey. It's important. It needs to be shared and others need to hear it and take the lessons from it. So I'm just so thankful for you being here today.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being here listening to us, man. I'm just, again, so humbled that you would join us week after week as we have just amazing coaches from around the world. I'm just, this is the most humbling part of my job is getting to sit down and really learning coaches' journeys, what brought them to this great sport, what challenges them, and how they're pouring back and giving the most selfless profession there is in coaching track specifically, and just so thankful for you being here and listening to those stories. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode here with Miss Dana Boone. Please, if you found value, give value back to others, share this episode with others, and hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Mike Cunningham. Let me know what was some sound bites from Dana today that really struck you. Those are always my favorite feedbacks to see what hit you and hit home to you and how you might take that into the future. So until next time, have a great day. And it's March. Let's go have some outdoor season. Let's have an outdoor season, Dana. Let's do it this year.
We will.
So thank you again for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.